And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And of course, it's Wednesday. We got a great interview for you. Greg Hach. I think you're going to be impressed with him running for Congress. Life of service, outstanding. He served in the Air Force. His son is actually going to the Marines, which is super impressive. We had a great conversation about that. So Semper Fi. And Greg is also a practicing injury attorney, and you'll be quite impressed with his life of service. Good morning, John. Good morning, Greg. Let's just jump right into it. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, guys.
And what was so significant that you decided to have a life of service?
Well, you know, I've lived in a home with life of service. First of all, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, guys. And I'm new to this. I'm not like a polished politician of any kind. So just so you know, but
neither are we.
Yeah. I've kind of always felt that way about service. Now, you know, not as a very young kid, but you know, in my teenage years, I volunteered a lot with older people. Always loved talking to the veterans and going and helping the veterans whenever I could. But talking to them, I guess it was my interest in their service, and talking to a lot of the World War II vets. I always had an interest in history and our government and our Constitution, and it was the final years of the Cold War. It was the last few years of the Cold War that I entered the military. And, you know, being involved in the Air Force, you know, going and serving with, it's just like law enforcement. You know, it's you know, you rely on the person next to you. You're part of something bigger than yourself. And I loved every second of my service, and I look back on it very fondly. And it's driven just about everything that I've done in my life since then. You know, since I grew up in the district. You want me to go through?
Yeah, sure, it's your show, brother. Whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in Hicksville, Long Island. You know, a small home, modest home. I went to public school. I worked since I was 13 years old. I worked washing dishes at Alfredo's Swiss Chalet on Old Country Road in Hicksville, which I liked. You know, I was young to do it, but I would work pretty late. But the waitresses always took me on the parking lot, let me drive their cars, which was pretty cool. I joined the Air Force after that. When I graduated high school, I went to Hicksville Junior High School, Hicksville High School, graduated, joined the Air Force, loved every second of it. Made some of the best, you meet some of the best friends in the military when you're going through that, and you're working toward a common goal.
What'd you do in the Air Force?
I was actually I was a military policeman. I was half law enforcement, half security. So I guarded the priority A areas on the base sometimes, and then I would also do law enforcement duties as well.
Tell us what you really did in the Air Force. You ate good. You went to hotels. I know. We were talking about that before.
Spoken like a true Marine. I hear that all the time. I never bring up basic training in front of a Marine.
That's outstanding.
But yeah, but I loved every second of it, and I got a lot of law enforcement experience while I was there. But I did that for about a year, and I was in a competition it was called the Peacekeeper Challenge, and I was the only one ever to win it from this particular base in the 16th Air Force. So I just had to train and shoot, and I got to hone my shooting skills and that kind of thing, and it was good. But I got out of the military when I was actually in Berlin when the wall came down, and that was kind of indicative of what happened. I wound up getting out in the end of '91, I think, when the Soviet Union fell apart. So I got a little experience with communism there.
You forgot to mention something.
What?
I read that when you were stationed out in Germany, you learned to speak it fluently. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. I wasn't actually stationed in Germany. I was stationed in Crete, Greece. So you can rib me on that one too.
Oh, nice! That must have been horrible.
Yeah. It was right on the beach, the beach. Yeah, it was a pretty cool place. But it was a pretty hairy time. There was a terrorist organization that targeted Americans over there quite a bit, called November 17.
Yep.
So we had some issues there, but it was you know, it was the Cold War. It wasn't a hot war like Eric, you served in Iraq. Was it? Did you
Oh
say?
yeah, yep.
Yeah. So
2003.
it wasn't a hot war like that, but it was it was the Cold
That's
War.
all relative, right? I feel bad sometimes, when I see old Vietnam guys. I'm like, oh wow. I mean, Iraq was tough, but I think Vietnam was far worse.
Well, that has nothing on how hard it was on Creek Grease. So I'm joking.
No,
Yeah.
that's
So well, the way you feel about the Vietnam guys, I feel about you guys. Like you didn't have
you
to
had to
go
put on
in.
sunblock though. That's not easy.
No, but you know what? Everybody in the military who goes in, I don't care what you do. That's why, like that stolen valor stuff really bothers me. And when people kind of exaggerate on what they do in the military, no, man, every single person that goes into the military is voluntarily putting their life on the line. They're making that promise. They're making that oath to our country. And man, when I took that oath, not to get off topic, but when I took that oath, man, that you don't get rid of that oath. I mean, that oath is that I thought a lot about that oath before I got into politics. And the reason why I got into politics is because of the Constitution and because of the lack of trust that we have in our elected leaders. I mean, 93% of Americans don't trust their member of Congress. What do you think that does to our representation? That attracts people who are trying to put one over on you. If you can go to Congress and multiply your net worth 6 times in just a couple of, or 4.5 times in just 6 years, like Tom Swazi's done, it attracts the wrong kind of people. And then there's a breakdown of trust. When you have a breakdown of trust between the electorate and your representative, then you don't have an electorate, or you don't have voters that think that they have a say in their own destiny, in their future, in their family's future, in their security. And people disengage when that happens. And then we're in situations like we are now. We have chaos in so many areas of our government institutions and in our society, and it's a real problem. So we need to restore trust. I think that's one of the main reasons I got involved in doing this, because I've lived a life of trust. I've built trust my entire life, and I've remained worthy of that trust. So I know I can give the voter a very clear choice. When you put me up against the different people in this election, the choice is going to be very clear. I'm a very humble guy, but I've done right by everybody in my life, and I served my country right out of high school. I put my life on hold so that I can serve my country, and I'm proud that I did that. I love that I did that, and that's given me so much throughout my life. It helps you dig down deep and help you realize what you can actually do. I think it would be a good thing for just about every young person to go in. I think everybody would feel like they have a stake in our future and skin in the game when it comes to our country. I think that's one of the real problems that we have today. You have young people out there, MFing America, on our most elite campuses, and doing it from a $100,000 car and $1 million apartment. And that's a real problem. You notice our greatest times in our country's history has always been after times of our greatest despair. World War II, right? After our wars, where we have a cohesion of Americans. We have to restore unity, but the only way we can do that is through trust. It's really the only way.
So Greg, what specifically, what was the moment that you're like, I think I'm gonna put my name in the hat? Like, you've had a life of service, you're successful in your business. Like, what was there one thing that stood out where you're like, what, I think I need to run. I'm thinking, and what was that for you and your family? Like, what was that moment like?
Well, yeah, well, it really started. I can almost point to a moment. I mean, it's the wokeism and these destructive policies and politics that have infected every area of our country. I mean, we had COVID, we had the woke agenda infecting our schools and our kids. Our politics should never be in our schools. I mean, that is just absolutely destructive in every single way. And you know what? We haven't even scratched the surface of how we're going to be paying for that later on. Think about the damage it's done to our kids, to their mental state, to what they believe, to what they have been told to believe in, but has been just completely eviscerated as far as the trust between what they've been told and what actually is occurring. And that's a real problem. We're going to be paying for that. It only takes one generation to demoralize a population and really destroy a population, destroy a society. And you do that with one generation. And I'm afraid to see what the results are going to be of the woke agenda and everything and all the politics that's been pushed into our school system. I really am.
All right, that's outstanding. You mentioned the oath of the Constitution, which I think is so important. We often talk about law enforcement professionals and being law enforcement ourselves, and you take the oath and under the Constitution, and we say often that many people in law enforcement don't really even understand the Constitution themselves, or don't even understand what they're swearing to when they take that oath. So what does that oath mean to you, and what message do you have for law enforcement when it comes to the oath?
Well, if you don't know, to law enforcement, I would say that most people know what they're fighting for and or taking an oath to in the Constitution. But to me, if you don't, learn it. I mean, that's the roadmap of our country and and everything that we hold dear. Everything that's under attack right now is only held together by our strict adherence to the Constitution. And that's what it means to me. That's what it really means to me. And I apologize. I didn't finish your question, John. There was one point. I remember watching AOC and Ilhan Omar MFing America from our Capitol building. And when I saw that, I got to tell you that I teared up watching that. I knew that we were in such turmoil in this country, and that we have a real problem, and we need real people who've actually done things with their lives to come in and translate that experience into real representation for the people. There's so many things that we have. None of this means anything. My campaigns in general, elections, they mean nothing unless we pass the SAVE Act. Unless we can actually protect our vote, we have nothing. Because then you can install whoever you want, by manipulating our electoral process. And not just that. Then we have, I got to tell you, and forgive me for saying this, but I got involved in this, and I did a lot of soul searching before I did it. Am I the right guy? Is this something for me? How's it going to affect my family? Can I really make a difference? These kind of things are the things that you should really consider before you do it. And you should really do it and say to yourself, am I really worthy of this? Because I consider this a very sacred pursuit. You're being put into a position where you're making decisions on behalf of over 800,000 people. Some of the most important decisions affecting their lives, their national security, the security of their home, the security of their family, and the safety of their family, and the safety of their society, and everything that they hold dear. If you're not taking that seriously and spending every single day between the time that you decide to do it and the time of the election to try and be the most effective representative that you can possibly be, and go into that and go into Congress. I don't know if I'll get elected. I'm pretty sure that I will if I get on the ballot. However, and we will get on the ballot. But I think it's incumbent upon every single person who runs to try and be the most effective, and trustworthy and transparent member of Congress you could possibly be, because it's such a sacred pursuit. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't look at it that way. A lot of people look at it like for personal ambition, or they're going there to get wealthy, or going there to get power. I'm going there to get power. I'm going there to make it the most powerful position it can be, but I'm going there to get power so I can wield it on behalf of the people who are entrusting me with it.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Not anybody else, not a party elite, not anybody else. And the thing that's really bothered me, and another thing that I really feel is a real problem with our government and the way that we elect our leaders, is the fact that there's so much between a lot of different party leaderships. The local parties have real influence and have there's a real need for them in a lot of circumstances. However, certain policies of the local parties prevent regular people from running. Now, I wanted to give the party no place to go. I wanted to come out strong, be a strong candidate, be worthy of the people's trust, be the best possible and most effective representative I can possibly be the most knowledgeable I could possibly be, so that my party would say, hey, listen, you can beat Swazi. You're the guy to beat Swazi. All our polling shows that we are the people. We can beat Swazi. We're the only one who can beat Swazi in this district. And we did all the polling. Everything shows it. But I'm putting $1 million of my own money up in the campaign into this election. So I have skin in the game. That's how much I care about this. And that's how important I think it is that we restore trust with our elected leaders. But and I'm getting support from everywhere, grassroots support from everywhere, because the people know that I'm looking out for them. I'm looking to represent them. But the problem is that I'm being fought by my own party. I've been running a very effective campaign for over 4 months, and then I'm being primaried by my own party, which I don't have a problem with primaries, not at all. But when it's done to obstruct the will of the people and the right of the people, that's what you and I fought for, man. Like we volunteered. I volunteered for, I don't need real, I don't need responsive representation in every single way, but I want to make sure that representative is there for my best interests and not their own, and not some party elite.
Great point.
That's not what we signed up for. And that's another major reason why I got involved in this, because I have a very clear idea of what I need to do here and how I need to bring real representation back to the people, because they don't have it now. They have the appearance of representation.
Greg,
So,
go ahead, John. Good.
So we're talking about NY-3, right? The seat's currently held by Tom Suozzi, a Democrat. You're running on the Republican ticket, but there'll be a primary in June.
Correct.
What would you say is the clear difference between you and any other Republican candidate, for either whoever the party endorses or any other ones that rear up? What would you tell the people in NY-3 that's significantly different about you? You kind of answered it, but I just think it's important to just hone in on it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important thing. I think people need to really pay attention to who they send to Congress for the reasons I said before. You're making some of the most important decisions for people's families. So the difference is, I don't need a career. I don't need a career. Take a look at what someone's done in the past, because that's the best indication of what they'll do in the future. I've represented New Yorkers. I've represented New Yorkers for 25 years and their families. I've been a great advocate for them, great advocate for unions, union members, and working families. I've done that very effectively and very well. I've recovered over $1 billion in just one of my law firms, and $1 billion in the other, for union members and retirees and New Yorkers who work every day and pay their taxes and make our country better. These are the people who work and make our country better and build their families and assure our future is there. That's the only reason I'm doing it. I'm not looking for a career. I don't have to. I'm very lucky. I've been very blessed. I worked. Nobody gave me a thing. I did everything myself. But you know what? I want to make sure that exists for our kids and for your kids and for their kids. Because if it doesn't, if we don't have, like we were talking about affordability, if we can't attract young people to come back to our district and raise their families here, you have a dying population. You don't have the young people with skilled workforce. You don't have the creativity that they bring, the entrepreneurship and the businesses and the jobs that they create. And all of the money leaves. When the money leaves, you don't have the philanthropy. You don't have the jobs. You have a government now that's trying to divide us, right? By saying it's rich against poor. And listen, I've been poor and I've done very well. Also, and on both sides, but you can't have one without the other. You have unions out there, people who work, and I've been there. I've done it. That's how I put myself through college and law school. I worked a full-time job doing that. So I have all the respect in the world. My dad was a labor leader, so I have all the respect in the world. I grew up in union on picket lines in union halls, listening to him speak and talking to union members and being part of them. And so I care. I'm part of the fabric of this community. But if you look at why I think the threshold question for any candidate is why they're doing this. I think I intend to make it very clear. I think you can hear it from me. I tend to get like a little bit passionate about it, but because I think it's so important. If you take a look at my primary opponent, I don't want to denigrate anybody at all, but I applaud him for getting involved in the race. But here's a guy who went to school, graduated law school. Immediately upon getting out, he runs for assembly. He serves 2 years in the assembly. He gets out, and what does he do with that? With that influence that he's asked the people to trust him with, trust me, put your trust in me, and I'll be your assemblyman. The moment he gets out, what's he doing? He's selling it to the highest bidder as a lobbyist. That's not the kind of leadership that I want. I
Real
want somebody who's
politics.
actually gone out there. I've created jobs, very high-paying jobs. I've created commerce. I've protected the rights of workers throughout New York City for New York for 25 years. I've served my country honorably. I've and with great effect, and I've done everything myself. So I've done 9/11 cases for free. I don't I opened my firm just a couple of months after 9/11, and we didn't have the sources to do it. It's not something that I advertise. I don't advertise a lot of the things I do, and I'm not used to doing that. But you kind of have to do it as a politician because you want to, or as a candidate because you want people to understand who you are. And I think they have every right to understand who I am. And I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've done with my life, and I've lived it honorably and with character and with great respect for the people around me and for our Constitution and for our country. And I think that's what we're really missing in our Congress today. We have people who are there for different reasons, and you should only be there for public service. This is too important, and it's too important a time in our history. There's too much going on, and we're under attack in so many different ways. I mean, we all know it in the many ways that we are, from the inside and from the outside. So, yeah.
Listen, Greg, I can tell you, our friends and listeners.
Did I lose you?
Our friends and listeners, they get you. They understand.
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you, Greg. You don't hear us?
We hear you. I don't think he could hear us. Yeah,
I lost you guys.
We hear you.
Oh.
We hear you. How about now?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear.
Something's up. Why?
Well, so you know what? While he's figuring that out, you know what, Greg?
Log out, log back in.
Yeah, come out and go back in if you can.
I'll text him.
If he hears that. Yeah. In the meantime, I just want to say, so far, I can tell you what, our friends and listeners, they're liking what Greg's saying. I think he's making some great talking points. A lot of the people here in our chat are friends and listeners. They're from Long Island themselves. Lily, who's a great friend to the network, she's from Long Island. So we totally get it. Hopefully we can get Greg back on, but we'll figure out. Sometimes the technical issues. We had it last week. Listen, these things happen. But I can tell you what, Greg, to me, seems like a really extremely humble guy. I love the fact that he's not your typical politician. And what is a key element, I think, in Greg's story is what he said is he already has the money. This is someone who's already established. He had a life of service in the Air Force. His son is going to the Marines. He has an established business. He's an attorney himself. He's had some great representation. So he's got an impressive record. So he doesn't need this for career. So this is strictly for service. Can you hear us now, Greg?
Yeah, sorry about that.
So, while you were going in and out, what I was saying was, by the way, you're getting a lot of love from our friends and listeners in the network. A lot of them are from Long Island also, but a lot of the people enjoying your talking points. And I think what's a major key element that you said, which I like, is the fact that you've already established yourself. You've had an impressive life, impressive record, and you don't need a career of politics. So for you, it is a life of service. Yeah. So one thing I want to ask you, so we were having a conversation offline before we started going live here, and we were talking about affordability. And a lot of people here live in Long Island, and how Long Island is a battle for many city cops because it's just not affordable. The taxes, and you even said the average single family home is now over $800,000. So that's extremely difficult on a law enforcement salary. But with that being said, talking about affordability, right? Because I think a lot of people feel the American dream is slipping away, right? I mean, gas prices went up, obviously, because we're at war here. And people are struggling to buy homes. Donald Trump has even spoken about potential 50-year mortgages. People are struggling to get cars. They're talking about 15-year car loans. This is just insane. So what type of policies, if you get elected, what type of policies would you fight to make life more affordable again?
What I would fight is always, I think what we need to do is spur commerce. The way you really make an effective, you don't do it by raising taxes on everybody. That's not how you make a more prosperous society. The way you do it is you reduce taxes as much as possible. You cut taxes as much as possible. My opponent, Tom Suozzi, he proposed raising taxes over 2.6%. on people in the district making over $400,000. And he's trying to thread the needle because he paints himself as a moderate, and he's really voting with the left in most circumstances. But he's trying to paint it as he's trying to play to the left, but also play himself as a moderate by saying, "Oh, I'm only going to tax people over making over $400,000 a year." Well, $400,000 a year is a lot of money to anybody. But when you're making that much money, you're mobile. If you're getting overtaxed, you're going to move to a reduced tax area, and then the tax burden falls down on the people below them and the people making less than that. So a tax proposed by my opponent in that circumstance, even though as a soundbite, which seems to be everything that he puts out there, and which is another problem that I have with our representation these days, but it's just reactionary things to appease his base while trying to get it by him as a moderate in the district, and that really hurts people. So I think what we really need to do is we really need to spur industry and commerce and business. So by doing that, you create jobs. You increase the tax base. You attract more people, more businesses to come in, creating more jobs and increasing our tax base. And I think that's most important. Cutting regulations, very simple thing to do. Cut the regulations, cut taxes before you raise taxes. Let's see. I mean, we've seen this fraud going on all over the country. We saw it in Minnesota, right? We see it in California. You don't think it's here in New York as a sanctuary city? It's here in an astronomical scale, and we're only beginning to see how big it's going to become. And man, if you can't tell us where our tax dollars are going before you're attempting to raise taxes on the highest taxed area in the country, with the highest exodus of people leaving, that's not leadership. That's not leadership at all. That's mismanagement and negligence, and it's time for him to get out. I've run a very successful, very complex business. Well, I've run two of them in New York City, one of the most difficult places and most competitive places in the country to run a business in the most complex industry. And I've done it for over 25 years and created many high-paying jobs. So I understand compliance issues. I understand a lot of the social issues. I understand there's not many issues that you're unaware of when you run a law firm in New York. In New York City, I can tell you that. But I've experienced things. I'm not looking for a career. It's the last thing I need. But the one thing that I do need to do is to be effective and to do everything I could possibly do to make sure our country exists for our kids in the future. And that's really why I'm doing it. That's not a soundbite. I see a lot of other people saying that, but that's really important to me. And like, this is a law enforcement podcast, and I want to just say to all the officers out there and their families, like, God bless you. God bless the families too. Like, we were in the military, you know how it affects the families, and they don't seem to ever get the appreciation that they deserve. So I want to say that as well.
No, I agree. I think that law enforcement should be considered veterans because they are.
Yeah.
You do 20 years on patrol. It's it's pretty similar to a lot of military service. I think that law enforcement, even if they've never served in the military, I think they should be considered veterans. I do.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all. There's a lot of people who do public service that are outside the military and then very valuable.
Absolutely.
100%.
So, Greg, public safety, right? We're talking New York. New York's a sanctuary state. New York City's a sanctuary city. What we're hearing from these sanctuary states and these sanctuary cities is that, their local law enforcement cannot cooperate with ICE. Which I think really violates federal immigration law. What's your stance on us enforcing federal immigration law, securing our borders? And really, in my opinion, and I believe Eric feels the same way. It's like when we're not engaged in deportations and removing people that are here illegally, when we restrict our law enforcement from cooperating with our federal agencies, we're really losing our frontline counterterrorism strategy, we're basically giving it away, and we're leaving our residents wide open for sleeper cell attacks and other nefarious things, sex trafficking, drug trafficking. What's your stance on sanctuary states, and how do you feel about ICE, how they're moving currently?
I'll be very clear about this. I support ICE completely. I agree. I'm a strict constructionist with the Constitution. I believe in freedom of assembly. I believe in freedom of speech and all the protections and freedoms afforded us in the Bill of Rights and our Constitution, 100%, and they need to be protected. But our ICE, we voted for this. They let in millions and millions and millions of undocumented immigrants into this country, and it was done for very nefarious reasons, and it was paid for by very dark money out there that's bent on our destruction. So we voted for it. The people of America voted for our federal government, voted for President Trump to deport the illegal migrants. Is even to hear these young people being trafficked and killed and people being killed on the streets. I mean, you saw it at the State of the Union, right? You saw it at the State of the Union when President Trump asked everybody, if you support Americans and believe that our government is here to protect American citizens, as opposed to first. Just I think that's how he said it. They wouldn't even stand up. Wouldn't stand up. How can you not stand up for that? That's just so indicative of what the problem is. When you don't have support from your elected leaders, man, we have just chaos. You need law and order. I'm 100% for law and order. I'm 100% for deporting everybody who's not here illegally. I mean, you come in over the border and you don't do it the right way. I mean, that's an affront to every single legal immigrant out there, which I fully support. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are a nation of legal immigrants who do it the right way, who come in and assimilate and try and make our country better because they want to be Americans, because we're the greatest country on earth. We're the most charitable. We're the most prosperous. We're the strongest. And we're the greatest protector of of humanity in the world, and that is something to be damn friggin' proud of. And I'm sick of people. I'm sick of people downing our country and doing it. You should be. It's a time to be proud of being Americans and proud of what we stand for and proud of our service and everything that we do, whether we're officers or military or first responders, whatever the case, or nurses, whatever you are. But those are the people who need to be represented, and they're not being represented, period. So we need to deport the immigrants. You said it yourself as well. I mean, we just went into Iran and killed the Ayatollah Khomeini, right? And we're doing things over there. The millions of people who came in over our border undocumented. There's no question we have sleeper cells. No question. And when Andrew and half the country out there downing the fact that we went in there and that we went in there and bombed Iran. They said no war, no war, no war. Well, listen, we didn't start the war. They've been at war with us for 47 years. And there's no question we have sleeper cells in our country. It's whether or not they're going to be activated and they're going to be effective. That's the real question. There's no question that they're here. But yeah, we need rational representation. That's all we need. We need people to make rational decisions, not decisions that are encumbered by party elites who have their own agenda or huge donors that can manipulate what you have to say. I believe in this so much. I constructed my campaign and built the infrastructure. I'm running this with military precision. I really am, and it's coming out very, very well. It's one of the things that the military taught me, right, Eric? But we're doing this in a way.
I like where this conversation's going. I like it.
Yeah, and it should be that way. And it should be that way because of what I said before. You're making decisions on behalf of on behalf of 800,000 people. That is sacred, and you need to understand that is sacred. And if you're not fully committed to doing it, if you're not fully committed to being the best possible candidate so you can be the most effective representative for the people, then you shouldn't be in this. And I can tell you, there are some very good people out there who represent us, but they're sadly few and far between are unencumbered by outside forces. Everything you're hearing from me is what you're going to get in Congress. And you know why? Because nobody owns me. Nobody can tell me that I need to vote this way, I need to vote that way because I made your career. No, I wouldn't have done this unless I had complete autonomy. I'm very out there with what I believe. I'm not trying to get over on anybody. I'm out there with what I believe. I think it's very clear from my background how I believe and what's important to me, and that I'm here for America and service only. And that being the case, I
You
can
know,
say it with a straight face. Nobody owns me. I'm putting $1 million of my own money up, and I make it very clear. Listen, if you believe in me, if you love America, get behind us. If you want to give us money and tell me how to vote, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
listen, we love the fact that you can't be bought, and that's why I said it's impressive. You already have a life. You already have a life career that's been impressive, and that's you said you've been poor and you built yourself up, so you know what it is to have a career, and you built yourself to a point where you can't be bought. And I
Yeah.
think I really enjoy where this conversation's going, and I think you kind of projected it, but I want to ask anyway. Talk about foreign policy where we're at right now with the tensions in the world, and right now we are at war. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of alluded to it, but I'm curious to ask you anyway, because you said this is something that's been going on a long time. Do you think that the fact that we're at war right now and the tensions that are going on throughout the world, do you think that projects weakness, or do you think it projects strength on behalf of our country? And with that being said, if you are elected to Congress, what would you do to change that?
I believe completely in peace through strength. The only way, the only way that we can achieve strength is through peace. You don't get it by being an apologist. Like, you don't have it by Obama going in and bowing to every leader of the world and apologizing for America. That just disgusted me to no end. That was another reason. That might have not been the moment, but but that was another reason I wanted to do it. But um, yeah, as far as foreign policy, I'm a student of foreign policy. As far as Iran, like when I said we were at war for 47 years, man, I remember being 9 years old and laying on the carpet watching our Americans as hostages. And when the Shah of Iran was overthrown, and the Ayatollah Khomeini came into power, and the Iranian Revolution came in. Then I saw how Americans were killed in the rescue operation in the desert. Remember the helicopter rescue that was put forth by Jimmy Carter? Then we've seen how they become the mothership of terrorism and supported everything from the Beirut bombing to Hezbollah and Hamas and all the things that we're dealing with today. They are the financial arm, and they are the provider of many of the weapons and many of the missiles and bombs that they try and push their agenda with. And so we've been at war. We've been at war. I mean, they've killed Americans. They've killed Americans in the last couple of administrations. With the rocket attacks. Every time they get they hear something about hear our offense to their nuclear weapons ambitions, then they're shooting rockets off and killing Americans. This is preemptive. This is preemptive. We needed to do this. This needed to be done many years ago. And I'm 100% America first. 100% America first, but that doesn't mean America only. I mean, we need allies around the world. We need allies around the world to project our strength around the world so that we can protect our interests here at home. That is critical. And we can't do that. We can't do that if we're weak. So when you have the most powerful military in the world, you have the most powerful economy in the world, and they're wielded by a weak or corrupted man like Biden or Obama, you're not the most powerful country in the world. You're not the most powerful military, and you're not the most powerful economy in the world. But when you have it wielded by somebody like Donald Trump, who is strong and knows how to wield that power and get the most effective use out of that power, then you have an effective leader, and you have the most powerful country. And I think we're seeing that now, because we're seeing the tides turn on the world stage. I mean, we went in and took out Maduro, right? We went in and took out Ayatollah Khomeini. There's some ancillary benefits to that. You have an entire population of people who lived as Westerners before 1979 in Iran, right? This is a population who identifies with America, who loves America, who used to listen to and watch American movies and Hollywood and all these. I hate to say Hollywood, especially after what we've learned the last few days, but so let me not say that. But yeah, it's a very Western culture, and they're very aligned and very similar to Americans in a lot of ways. So we will have real allies around the world. And these are also oil producing nations. You have Venezuela, which has the highest reserves in the world. You have Iran, which has I don't know, third or fourth. But their biggest consumer was China. China is our, we can play nice in the press, but they're our mortal enemy, the country, not the people. But because they're taking over between 250 and 600 billion dollars a year from the United States, just from R&D, just from technology thefts and IP thefts. I mean, and that's our soft war. We're at economic war with China. You have China targets industries in America. You have like their EV industry. What they'll do is they'll target okay, American EVs. We need to target the EV industry in America and try and destroy it. And how do they do that? They'll outproduce us in China, and the government will subsidize it. They'll make $100,000 cars, and the government will subsidize those cars $90,000, and so they can sell them here. I'm just giving an example because you can't buy that car here for $10,000, but $100,000 car that's subsidized 90%. And it's being sold for $10,000, so that they can take over the industry itself, take over those means of production. You hear that in communism a lot. It's a communist country, and they do that. That's not just economic. That's national security as well. When you can't repurpose those industries and those manufacturing facilities to armament production, when I hope it's not the case, but we're very likely going to be at war with China in the next 5-10 years. It could even be sooner. And when that happens, man, we're not going to be subsidizing their oil. We're not going to have to go and try and cut off the supply from Venezuela and Iran. Biden and Obama restored it. They gave them back that opportunity. When Trump left office after his first term, Iran was on its knees. Sanctions were working. I mean, they couldn't sell their oil. And what did Biden do? Biden allowed them to sell, I think it was 80 million. Was it 80 million? I don't want to give a wrong number, but it was some astronomical number that he allowed them to sell during the day. And then he unfroze billions of dollars, allowing them to go ahead with their nuclear ambitions. It's absolutely insane. I think we just need representatives these days that know what they're doing. I care. I care on the world stage. I care at home. I mean, when the Russians invaded Ukraine, I actually went to the Ukraine to investigate war crimes, Putin's war crimes, so I can get a real indication of what's going on. I interviewed countless numbers of Ukrainian refugees who were fleeing the fighting and fleeing destruction of their country, and I knew it was going to be I knew it was going to drive a lot of the narrative of what's going on in our country before I ran. So I wanted to make sure I was there and understood everything that was going on from there, because sadly, we lost trust in our members of Congress. We lost trust in our institutions of government, but we lost trust in our media as well. And that's where our electorate is informed of who they should vote for and why they should vote for them. And because it's become social media has become such a real problem. We used to elect our leaders based on what they've done and what they've accomplished and their reputation and how they treated people around them. Sadly, today it's how popular you are on social media and how many views you have. What do you think that does? What kind of quality of person do you think that attracts to run? That's sad to me. So we're in a very we have a very steep decline that's ahead of us if we don't really address these issues. And man, this is all I'm doing. I stepped away from everything. I stepped away from my firms. I stepped away from every single thing so I can do this. I couldn't ask you for your support. I couldn't ask voters for their support. I couldn't ask anybody to get behind me unless I was giving this every single thing I could possibly give it to get into Congress and do it the right way and be the most effective and knowledgeable representative that you can possibly have. I think that's
yeah. You touched on a lot of points there. I think media is a huge problem in our elections. One, our election security, especially election integrity, in New York has a lot left to be desired, right? And now they're trying to take that blueprint of New York City, Tammany Hall style, where, we'll get you to vote 7 times, and they're trying to bring that national. So there's a lot there. The media, I think, is complicit in literally every problem we have. And grassroots candidates, their only way to get to the people is through social media. But even social media has become co-opted. And most of what you're seeing is being farmed to you, and it's paid actors pushing people ahead. It's not actual organic. I'll take the guy that's grassroots and he's just getting the organic base over the guy that's being pushed by the party through funding big names and big accounts, and they're pushing that account ahead. But you touched on a lot of things. I mean, the thing I always say about politics is, our problem is career politicians. You have people dictating on businesses. They never ran a business. You have people talking about public safety. They know nothing about law enforcement. They know nothing about our criminal justice system. Truly incompetent people come out of college after 4 years away from mommy and daddy, going off into a life of, basically a part-time job and stay there forever. What's your, you've said it here. You're funding your own campaign. You're not here to be bought out. Most of what we see from our politicians is that they do become beholden to people because they need money to stay in office, because this is their career. This is their only source of income. What are your thoughts about having term limits for Congress? I mean, I think that's a major, major issue in a lot of politics. Is we just see people, all they have to do, they work during election time, and then they're on vacation for the next 4 years, held completely unaccountable. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree completely with term limits. I think we definitely need term limits. There are a lot of things you need to look at with respect to term limits, though. How many terms for what office and that kind of thing. So I'm definitely for term limits. The people on the opposite side of the fence against term limits are usually the career politicians who are in there for 20 some odd years or 30, 40 years. And have their little fiefdoms going, and that's a problem. But by the same token, when you're in for a significant amount of time, you build up more power for the people who elect you. But I don't think you should be in there just for incumbency reasons because you have an incumbency advantage. I think you should be in there. I mean. And this is just thinking that the reality is that's how it works. If you're an incumbent, you have a great advantage in a lot of ways to stay in that office. So we need to level the playing field as far as, and the only defining factor that should really change whether or not you're spending time in as a representative is the trust you have, and not to constantly get back to trust, but it's a huge part of my campaign. And is reestablishing trust with the electorate. When you have real trust with the electorate, you have real power. And when you have real power, you can wield that power, like I said, on behalf of the people who actually empowered you with it. So there's a lot of considerations there for sure.
Well, let's talk about law enforcement. In your opinion, do you think that people are doing enough to support law enforcement? I would say absolutely not. But with that being said, what would you change if you're elected? What would you change in Congress to get more support for law enforcement? If I'm right.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that our officers out there on the job know that they have their elected leaders behind them and not working against them. That they have that we bring back actual policing and real respect for the law. And we need to assure qualified immunity. You were talking about an issue that I wasn't really necessarily aware of, and that was you can go out and you have an interaction, a violent interaction. You might have a violent interaction 4 times in a day, and those interactions, whether you're just protecting yourself or doing everything by the book, is go on your record. And when they go on your record, you have to defend that. And you're defending it as somebody who's already done your job and done it well and done it properly, and that's a real problem. So I look forward to talking to you about that. So I'm not going to get up here and give you a bunch of talking points. I could tell you right now that we need to reestablish trust. We need to reestablish leadership who actually supports our officers who are on the job. We need qualified immunity. We need to provide greater resources to our district attorneys to actually prosecute the crimes that are actually being brought in by the police on the ground. I can't imagine what it must be like to go out and arrest somebody multiple times, and they get out and get out and get out, and you're risking your life each time going in and arresting them. I mean, I think that's horrible. But what I can tell every single officer out there, whether you're on the job, in your patrol car, standing a post, answering the 9/11 as 9/11, whatever. Everybody out there, you're serving an important duty, and you should expect from your elected leaders that you will listen, they will listen to you and understand how it is on the ground, and what can be done from their standpoint to help you do your job better, and assure that you have greater backup. One thing I'm also very concerned about is, and I'm hearing a lot from officers I speak to out in the field, is that mental health and suicide prevention and a lot of these things are a real issue. And I want to learn more about that. I think that's a real problem. I've seen it in the military a lot. And yeah, sorry. And that's important. I think we really need to look into that quite a bit. So I look forward to getting to know that. So you'll have somebody. I want you to know that you support me, whether you support me or not. I will always be behind our law enforcement, our officers, the ones out there doing the job that we, that.
I'm glad you mentioned qualified immunity, because I was a delegate for the Lieutenants Benevolent Association, and when it came up with that qualified immunity would be removed for stop, question, possibly frisk for law enforcement officers doing intrusive police work, the union at the time said, "John, I'm sure you're not surprised. Don't worry about it. That literature, it doesn't really apply." These guys have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Qualified immunity is huge.
Yeah, I agree completely. But I want to make sure that you know that you'll have somebody. I get into Congress, you will have somebody that you can call up. You'll have my cell phone. I want to know the issues that you're facing every day, because I didn't get into this for a career. I didn't get into this for any other reason but to raise the bar of what people should expect. I think that my purpose in life at this moment is to take all of the experience that I've garnered throughout my life, and all the people that I've met, and all the information that I've garnered, and all the opinions that I've made, and my ability to listen to other people's opinions, because we base our opinions on our experiences in life, right? And I haven't experienced everything in the world, so I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear from everybody how we can make our country a better place, and how we can make our community a better place, and how we can make our how we can restore order. And you only do that by restoring trust between the people and the police and their representatives, and make sure that the police know that that the elected leadership has their back. So you'll have a real partner in government with me, and that's what we need, because that's what we're missing today. Everything is just about photo ops these days. It's the slickest politicians out there who can make you seem like they're these great guys looking out for you. But listen, you remember those Bazooka Joe comics? They had the little fortunes at the bottom, like even a broken clock is right twice a day. So when it's broken, and those politicians are right, and their interests are aligned at the moment with their electorate, man, they pump that out there in every single way with photo ops and this and that. I'm not about photo ops. I'm about getting something done and restoring trust with the people, so that they can expect more from the person who they elect next time. I think that's how we make our country better and stronger.
Greg, we just had an incident go viral out of Washington Square Park. Officers respond to a 911 call of a disorderly group. When they entered the park, there were males on top of a roof. The entire crowd started throwing snowballs, ice at them, ice with rocks inside of it. Officers were injured, sent to the hospital as a result. They had injuries to the head and their face. The mayor of New York City said this was just kids involved in a snowball fight. What were your thoughts about that incident?
I thought that was disgusting. I actually did a post on it, and I did a press release on it. I thought it was absolutely disgusting and indicative of what the real problem is today. And Mondani just put an exclamation mark after it with that comment, because when you have an apologist in Gracie Mansion and the NYPD out there getting attacked, and you don't have the backup from the highest elected leader in the city, we're doomed unless we do something about it, unless people wake up and start really paying attention. I mean, that's just unacceptable to me. That broke my heart when I saw that. I thought about every single officer out there, their families. Can you imagine someone's daughter watching their father up there getting pelted and just being disrespected like that, and then not having the backing of the mayor? Absolutely disgusting to me. Absolutely disgusting to me. It needs to be addressed.
It does, and that's why I think that's what this conversation is great. And I said I really like where this conversation is going. And I had asked you, do you think the cops are being supported enough? And obviously not. And I think that's a prime example.
I'm so sorry, I mean to, but also
no, I don't want to interrupt you at all. It's your day.
No, Alvin Bragg, he declined to even. They caught one of the perpetrators in that viral moment, and he refused to prosecute him.
Yes,
Absolutely. And another exclamation mark on I don't support the police. That's exactly what he did. I don't support the police in any way. That's Mandani.
and that's why I ask you what we have these complete radicals in major cities. We're talking about New York, the most metropolis you could get in the United States, probably in the entire world. One of few in the entire world that's the biggest metropolis.
Yeah.
And with that being said, that's what I'm saying. How would you in Congress? What else further could you do to support the police, in combating Alvin Bragg and Zohran Mamdani and figures like this that are really just destroying it at the local level?
Well, that actually needs to. That's a pretty complicated, a little bit more complicated of an answer, because I think the real problem with those local leaders is the dark money that's infected our local politics. You had George Soros. George Soros used to give all kinds of money to the presidential elections and to the senators and to the top level politicians, until he realized that he could be more effective at at unraveling everything that we hold dear by doing it on a local level. That's why you had him supporting and putting all this money into Letitia James and Alvin Bragg and Fannie Willis, all these people all over the country that were attacking President Trump for trying to represent the people. I'm trying to represent the people. It's actually incredible to me that I'm simply trying to represent the people of my district, and I'm being fought by the establishment in every single way. They rolled out every single top name endorsement that they could possibly lay out there, and not one of those people spent 30 seconds to call me and determine whether or not I'm the right candidate or not, or whether that's the candidate. That's a betrayal of trust, I believe, and a betrayal of trust, because we look at our elected leaders that we entrusted with the power that they are wielding on our behalf, or supposedly on our behalf, and they're making an endorsement and using the power that you gave them to try and hoodwink you into putting somebody else in, that instead of making the decision on who's the better candidate and who can actually win. And that's sad to me. But I'm sorry, I got off a little off topic on that one. But there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot we can do. We need to support our police completely. We need the qualified immunity, like we were talking about. But we also need to have on the federal level for law enforcement officers, when you have an assault of any kind, that should be there should be even greater consequences. I stop short of saying there should be it should be federal, but I don't know the interplay of that between. I'd have to look into that. But yeah, there are real things that we can do. I'm looking to have real solutions, and solutions by engaging with the people. I've actually learned, I love campaigning. I'm meeting so many amazing people in the district that do incredible things that I never would have met before. And you learn so much about how our system of government works, how our society works, and how everything affects everything else. I'm a knowledgeable guy. I make sure I'm a knowledgeable guy when it comes to these kind of things, because that's what you deserve as someone who represents you. But I don't know everything. So it's important to engage with the people of the community who are on the ground and dealing with things day in and day out, that you need to really listen to them and really understand how we can introduce legislation that will help make them more prosperous, more safe, and live a better life and a safer life for their family.
Greg, another thing, in Florida, there's a law called Stand Your Ground,
Yeah.
right? Where a homeowner is able to defend his home, or an individual is able to claim self-defense when defending themselves. What are your thoughts on Stand Your Ground? Is that something that should be put in federally, or how do you feel about that?
I'm glad you brought that up. That's something important to me. My campaign manager might have a problem with me bringing this up, but I didn't get into this to be quiet. So I really think I've watched throughout our country, all over our country. I've watched different areas of the country where someone's home and family have been invaded by an outsider looking to do their family or their home harm, and that person took action. They had with a legal weapon. They stopped the threat and killed the intruder, or maimed the intruder, or stopped the intruder in any way. And I saw people. I saw the sheriff down in Florida, who I love hearing him. Hey, listen, if you're hiding because you shot that guy, we welcome it. If someone walks into your house, you shoot them. You know, like the right to protect yourself, your family, and your home should never be infringed in any way. But then we've seen in sanctuary cities where the local policies are, okay, someone breaks into your house, it's incumbent upon you to what? Run out the back door? That's not America to me. And not protect your family. And if you do, you're going to be caught up in court, and your life is going to be ruined, no, there should be a national stand your ground law. There's no question, and because the right of a person to protect their home and family should never be infringed in any single way. That should be a fundamental right in our country, and I will push for that for sure.
You know, Greg, I'm so glad you said that. So I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing a hat today. It says Second Amendment. I support the Second Amendment. I support the Constitution. So, you know, as an attorney, and we spoke about different things. We spoke about the Constitution today. As an attorney, what? And I think kind of relates to this question. I thought your answer is fantastic. You should be able to protect your domain. You protect your home.
Yeah.
So, as an attorney, with your experience and understanding the law and the Constitution, what amendment would you say in the Constitution is under the greatest threat in America today?
The greatest threat? I mean, many of it is under threat. Much of it is under threat. But I think freedom of speech. I think we're in a real quandary here with freedom of speech, and I'll tell you why. Because we have this. I was talking about the nefarious money out there. I was talking about the George Soros money and, you know, funding local politicians. But they were also funding insurrection within our or strife within our country. You know, they use the Second Amendment and freedom of assembly and freedom of speech to get out there and fund these fake protests. These protests, you know, we saw it with the Palestinian question. We see it with you know, a lot of different issues that are important to destroying everything that we hold dear. That's why they're being funded by these nefarious entities. So it's funny. I'm really analyzing this quite extensively because I think that we need to limit that kind of money. We need to do something where we can't restrict freedom of speech. We can't restrict freedom of assembly, but we can restrict when nefarious people try to manipulate our Second Amendment. We cannot use our freedoms and our charity and our good nature as good stewards of freedom on this planet against us. If it's used against us, like it's being used today with this illegal immigration and using our freedom of people to come in and engage with their government, we're seeing our local governments being taken over now. You know, and we're seeing this happen all over the country. I think that we need to really we need to find a way to limit that money that goes into funding protests. An organic protest, no problem. But when you're manipulating the voters of this country by the millions by doing that, and then it gets reported on nefarious media sites or biased media sites, that's not freedom of speech. That's manipulation of our Constitution to our detriment. And that needs to be addressed very clearly. So I think that freedom of speech is under attack, but there are ways to make sure that it is protected for the future and for the future of our country, because it is integral to the future of our country.
And a lot of our friends and listeners, they agree with you. They're saying the same thing for First Amendment. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so too. And especially, you know, we also have the social media problem. You know, when you go on your social media feed, you know, you think most people get their news now from social media. But if you know, like, you know, you could be talking about an Audi, right? And an Audi shows up in your feed, right? It's the same thing with your news. So if you're looking at something or you liked you saw something about Dearborn, Michigan, and the Sharia law and the Muslim call to prayer and everything in Dearborn, Michigan, and you're watching that, and put a thumbs down on it, you're going to get 50 of those things. And it rewires your brain. It rewires your brain to think that everybody's against you. You're being invaded. You're this, you're that. It just like on the opposite end of the spectrum, it doesn't matter what side you're on. Your news is now fed to you very specifically to mold the way that you think. And I think that to say that 5 years ago, I might have been talked about like this guy's a nut. No, we all see it. We all see it now. I think you'd have to be blind not to see it. So that's something that's really important because we're being manipulated in many ways through our press. We don't even have a free press anymore. We have such a biased press. I don't even know how these people can call themselves journalists anymore because they're just pushing agenda and propaganda. And that's a real problem as well. So you need to really look at where you're getting your news from as well. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I'm sorry. First Amendment definitely the biggest problem.
No,
Not the biggest problem. Definitely the biggest right that needs to be protected at the moment for sure.
No, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, especially in New York. I got a lot of people on here asking, and I'm curious myself. I left my career over being denied religious freedom and freedom of speech. During COVID, we saw the government, our news media on all sides converge on all of Americans who asked a question about the COVID vaccine. What did you think about the lockdowns? What did you think about vaccine mandates? Is that American in nature, or is that something that you would stand against?
No, everything that we've learned about the vaccine mandates now, I have a real problem with that. We've seen it in every point in our history. Every time that we've had a major catastrophe or a major blow to our country, 9/11, 9/11, it's always used by our government leaders to exert more control. So we had COVID, same thing. We had the control. It was the masks weren't about safety. They didn't do anything. That was about control. Same thing with the vaccine mandates. That's about control. And then it started to infect our jobs and everybody. You couldn't work in your field. You couldn't continue to claim benefits unless you got the vaccine mandate. And we saw a lot of the empirical data on people who took the vaccine versus the people who didn't take the vaccine. And I saw a real problem with it as a lawyer when I saw that when the liability for any negative effects for the manufacturers of those vaccines was codified in our legislature. I saw that as a big red flag. There's a lot of point of view that you can get as an attorney that kind of makes the world make a little more sense. It's kind of like the Me Too movement. I didn't. If someone's being, someone during the Me Too movement is being accused of sexual harassment in some way, and then they get canceled and everything. I always said to myself, you know what? He did it. The person did it, unless they sue that person for defamation. Because the only defense to slander or defamation is if it's the truth. So you're not going to sue somebody if it's actually the truth, because then it'll all come out. So that was always the key indicator to me. But there's such an affront to everything that we hold dear. Due process in this country is under attack. We saw it again during the Me Too movement. It didn't matter if you had half the population yelling, "Always believe the victim. Always believe the victim." No, you don't always believe the victim, because there are victims out there who lie, and there are people out there. We have to go with the evidence. The evidence speaks for itself. Period. That's what we're a country of laws. We're a country of order and process. And you can't have freedom without that process. And you can't have freedom without due process. And you can't have freedom without rules and laws. So that's basically it.
I'm glad we're talking about freedom and laws. We're talking about the Constitution. It's great. And so, as a lawyer, if you had to pick, what is a law that's on the books that you think is unjust that needs to be changed immediately, if you had the ability to do it right now?
A law that's unjust? Oh my! Wow, I can't think of a. That's a good question. I can't think of one off the top of my.
What's that?
I said you had to put him on the spot like that.
I'm sorry. I just figured we're talking about the law right now, and I was like, this is perfect.
All the comments are now. He's melting down. He's melting down. No, but
we can edit that one.
Well, I can answer that. I can answer. I can't get. I hesitate in giving you a specific one. There are many.
I can think of so many. Yeah.
But I think that's indicative of what another problem is. There are so many laws on the books and regulations on the books that need to be eliminated, that hamstring our ability to be stronger. It's just like regulation that ties up our, like I was saying about, we were talking about affordability, regulation that inhibits business, and higher taxes that inhibit business or make business move out of our district and contribute to the decline of our community. We need to just reduce those kind of regulations and laws that make it more difficult for us to be prosperous and create jobs and create prosperity. Which, when we create prosperity and we create jobs, then everything works better. We have a safer community. We have more trust in our government because everything is working better. So there's a lot of ancillary effects to that. So we need to reduce regulation, reduce taxes first and foremost.
Yeah, totally. Greg, is there anything we missed? We know you spend a lot of time on us today, been over an hour and 10 minutes. Is there anything we missed? Anything that you wanted to highlight? Any questions that we didn't ask that you'd like to bring out here?
No, I'd like to just reiterate. I'd like to reiterate that to the voters out there, take a look at all the candidates. I really hope that you really take a look beyond what you see on sound bites and on social media. Look at the best indication of what somebody's going to do in the past or in the future is what they've done in the past. So look at what we've done in the past.
Oh man, I say that all the time.
Yeah, and it's true. It's so true. I mean, it's I've built trust my entire life, and I've been trustworthy and trusted by people in my past because I've always remained worthy of that trust, and I've always put trust and integrity above money. I've put people above profits, and country, family, and God above everything else. So if that's the kind of leader that you want and you need, someone who's going to be effective and someone who's going to be knowledgeable and looking out just for you, the voter, then I'm your guy. If you're a party favorite and you just do everything they say, then my primary opponent is the guy you want to vote for because he's the party establishment guy. But that's what it comes down to.
I like the fact that you're telling people to shop around because you're saying, hey, you get the comparison for yourself, right? So with that being said, an hour and 11 minutes into it, like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate if you hit that hype button. Greg Hach, awesome career. Awesome life, super impressive. You're super humble and super intelligent, and I really appreciate that. The fact that you're not cocky, you're confident and humble at the same time. It's a hard balance, and I love the fact that you support the Constitution and your stance on stand your ground laws. I think you should be able to protect yourself. With that being said, I love to ask sometimes just to have a little fun. If we can have a little fun by just telling us what are you into besides Congress, besides law, besides the military. Are you into music? What do you do for fun? What is your life like? You have any hobbies?
Yeah, I love fishing. I fish Oyster Bay all the time and the Sound quite a bit, but my real love is aviation. I'm a pilot. I love flying. It's
Nice.
the perfect blend of science and adventure. And man, I love flying over Long Island, some of the most beautiful places over the city. I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's such a rich history of aviation on Long Island. I was in I joined the Air Force. Obviously, I didn't fly in the Air Force. I was too young, but I joined the Civil Air Patrol. I don't know if you ever heard of the Civil Air Patrol.
Sure.
But it's like the Flying Boy Scouts, but I did that when I was in junior high school and through high school, and I just love aviation. So yeah, pilot. My daughter, my 16-year-old daughter, is a pilot. She actually she could solo in an airplane and fly an aircraft before she was allowed to drive.
That's super cool. Nice.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So, so that's it.
You got to take us for a ride one day. I'm coming down.
You got it. Anytime.
I'll watch from the ground.
John's terrified, right? He doesn't like planes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why John drives.
The little ones, I don't know, bro.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to fly with me then, brother.
Yeah.
Craig, I'm down, man. I love it.
Especially if especially for people that know I'm scared, I ain't flying with them.
I wouldn't do it to you then. I did some aerobatic flying, but yeah.
John's terrified of heights and terrified of planes.
And anything that you could use help with your campaign, like how could people get in contact with you? Where could they follow you on social media? Where could they follow your campaign? And anything you need? Do you need door knockers? Are you looking for anybody to help out? And if so, where could they reach you?
Thanks for asking that, because that's the one thing that I'm bad at. I'm a bad self promoter, and I'm bad at saying what I need. But essentially, like if anybody likes what they hear, if they want to support my campaign, we're getting ballot signatures now. So you can go to greghach.com. That's GREGHACH.com. You can sign up there as a volunteer. That would be extremely helpful. As long as you're a registered Republican, you can help us. And as long as we get on the ballot, all the polling shows we've got this. So we're a good bet.
You should ask Greg. You know why? Because I like to read a lot of stuff on psychology. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that people find, that you may be aware of this, is that people that ask others for help are considered likable. So if you're asking for help, people like that, and they want to be able to help you. And that's one of the things I read about psychology, is that to be likable is when you're willing to ask people for help. And people
it's funny that, but it's funny because my entire life has been exactly the opposite. I've never asked anybody for anything. I worked since I was 13 years old. You know, I landscaping trucks and washing dishes and stuff like that, and putting myself through school. I never wanted to ask my parents for money because they worked hard for their money. I'd figured school out on my own and living and all that stuff. So it's hard for me to ask, and it's the same reason I knew it would be hard for me to ask. That's another reason I'm putting up to $1 million into my campaign. It's primarily for that reason. I'm not made of money. That's a lot of money for me. Yeah. But it shows you how much I care about what I'm doing. But it also shows you how difficult it is for me to ask for help. So people can donate. I call everybody. I don't care if you give me $10. I call everybody and make sure that they know, listen, you're going to get every single dollar goes to getting me elected. I don't ever advertise this, but everything is publicly available. All my expenses on my campaign, not one meal goes on there, nothing. Every single dollar. If you give, I appreciate what people work hard for their money. So if you're giving me $10, $10 goes to actually getting me elected, period. So you should know that.
John, that comment's hilarious, by the way. Frank Bersha, that's hilarious. I'm in the middle of drinking here, and I almost spit it out here. He says, John is like Dalton in Roadhouse. I don't fly. Too dangerous.
Someone's asking when I graduated from Hicksville.
Yep.
It was 1988.
Nice. I think he said that he graduated in 92. I wasn't sure if it's Steven or if it's somebody else.
Okay.
Somebody else graduated in 92 from Hicksville.
Yeah. I'm still good friends with a big group of the guys I went to school with in junior high school and high school. Great guys.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And then so we put all your contact information for those of you wherever you're watching or listening to the podcast. If you want to follow Greg on social media, if you want to check out his podcast, if you look in the notes of the show, you'll see all that stuff. So yeah, we really appreciate you coming on today, and we wish you a lot of luck. I like everything I heard. The audience did too, and I think that's exactly what we need. We need Americans, experienced Americans who love this country, who just want to put it back in a better place, and aren't there to enrich themselves or their family and friends. So that's it's refreshing to hear. So we appreciate you, brother.
Awesome, thank you, brother.
Hey,
I appreciate it. Thank you, John. Thank you, Eric.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much. You got to answer this question before you go. Sure. We'll give you the last word. One of our friends here, Mikey G, wants to know if you played lacrosse at Hicksville. I guess maybe that's
no, but ask him if he remembers. I remember the people who played lacrosse, and there was one standout, Freddie Amaya. He graduated. I remember seeing that guy run. He was incredible. I don't know what happened to him after that, but he was a great lacrosse player. I didn't play lacrosse. I wrestled.
Nice.
Well, nice wrestler.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Outstanding. I'm sure you got to be double like. Anyway, Greg, I want to thank you so much for coming on here. Life of service, Air Force. I mean, pilot for fun. I love it. Outstanding. Thank you. Being a lawyer and your son, passing it on to DT, your son going to the Marines, and your daughter flying. Really impressive. Thank you for everything you do. We wish you lots of luck, and you will win. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you so much.
You're the type of person that's determined. You didn't join this race to lose. So outstanding. Right. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and thank you to everybody out there. Thank you for all you do, and thank you to all the families and officers and everybody out there who's supporting and who's on the front lines every day. I appreciate it. God bless
All
and
right,
stay
Greg.
safe.
Thank you, brother. Have a great day. Keep up at it. All right.
Thank
Greg,
you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Later, brother.
Yeah,
no.
Mikey G
good
knows
question.
it's what a small world, right? Mikey G saying Freddie and Maya all American. So what a small world, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's look, that's I think exactly what you need. You know, we didn't really know. I don't know Greg prior to this. Eric didn't know him prior to this. I seen him speak at the Donald J. Trump Republican Club. I was supposed to be that night and never made it. And I was like, oh, it sounds. When I heard him speak, I was like, oh, it sounds pretty interesting. And then just as fate have it, you know, a mutual friend was like, hey, I know this guy is running for Congress. I told him to go on the podcast and put us in contact. So I think, you know, it was pretty refreshing to hear his perspective on things. And I think, you know, that's I always say that, right? Like the main problem is these people are there to enrich themselves. And they're incompetent people. I like anybody that's whatever career you were in, whatever you decided to do with your life. I like anybody that's an experienced, competent individual, and then you decide to run, whether you were an educator, you were in law enforcement, you were in the military, you were a lawyer, you were a businessman, you were a construction worker. I don't care. Anything that you've done, you bring something to the table. You know, it's funny when he talked about the person he's running against in the primary, come out of college, run for politics. You take that, you go to be a lobbyist right off the bat. And it's just like Joe Borelli, Nicole Maliotakis, all these people. It's like career politicians. And I'm like, I don't want anybody like that because they're beholden to whoever's going to fund them, whoever's going to give them the right track on media and in social media, because they need to win those elections because that's their main source of income. And, you know, that's the last thing you want. You saw what the city of New York did to their employees during the vaccine mandate. They held your feet to the fire. If you're a politician and you need that job to feed your family, your feet is held to the fire by whoever's funding your campaign and ensuring you're there and getting all the resources for you. So whatever they ask of you, you have to do. You're a hand puppet, just like an NYPD chief, like an appointed managerial NYPD chief, who now have Zohran Mamdani pulling their strings. I mean, it's you know, so yeah.
You're right, brother. You're right.
Fresh in here, dude, you know, so.
Listen, you know, I love guys like him. So, Greg, if you're still watching, shout out to you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on here. What I love is he's got an impressive career, impressive record, a man of many talents, and he's just so humble about it. I love people like that, right? He wrestled in high school. He didn't mention that till the end, right? Just think how humble he is. He has a law degree, served in the Air Force. His kids are serving. He flies planes. I mean, he's a guy who's got all kinds of experience and just super humble about it. I love people like that. He doesn't brag about it. You have to dig to get this information. He doesn't just tell it to you and say you know, without being prompted. So, Greg, there's no doubt about it, and I don't think he joined this race to lose. And what's also important to note, just because he has the money doesn't mean he has to spend it on this campaign. So the fact he's put up his own money shows how much he cares and how he really wants to serve. He's willing to take that risk. And don't you agree, John? Just because he has it doesn't mean he has to spend it. So I think, you know, I think that says a lot about him.
I mean, it's huge. That's money that you're never making back. You know,
right? You're never getting it back, right? No way.
It's a bad investment. Just put it that way. You know.
You know what? That's so true. Like if you were an investment banker, if somebody came to you and said, you know what, I want to take $1 million from my money and run for Congress, I'd be like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah,
you don't want to
do that. Yeah,
you're not
absolutely. Like, wait,
there's nobody any returns.
Yeah. It's not a good investment. You're better off buying $1 million car and watching it depreciate 25%, right?
At least you have fun with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Nate said, why does this chat have so many haters? Look, the truth is a scary thing when you give honest opinions and you push back on media narratives and you talk about, you know, all the ills in the world. You're going to get a lot of hate for it. It is what it is, you know. But we welcome the haters, you know. Listen, we can't sit here and say we believe in free speech and not allow the free speech to come at us. So, you know what I mean? With free speech absolutists, come at us, you know. Nin's in the chat, you know. Again, he won last month. He was he was viewer of the month. So I mean,
he could be in the running 2 months in a row. Could be.
He's starting off early this month, so yeah.
I feel bad for him. He's having a rough day. I don't know. He went off. It was like he was calling me all kinds of names. I hope he's enjoying it. I think it's hilarious. Because he's called me. The best part about this is Nick keeps saying how stupid we are, but he's listening to us. So I guess we're not that stupid. You're the one listening to us. So I don't know who's stupid, man. I don't know, man. I tell you what, Nin, thank you. We appreciate it. If you just send us your picture, we can make a plaque. At 11:05, you might be a little bit busy, but 11:04, send us your picture. We can make a plaque for you.
Yeah. So
11:05. What happens at 11:05? A lot of stuff happens there.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a Guardian Power Hour.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. The
blood soul.
Yeah. So, but yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Friday, we'll get back into what's going on in New York City politics and the national front and what's good. The deep dive into the NYPD. A lot of stuff came out recently, but I don't think real surface level. There wasn't like a real lot of information put out with it. So we've been deep diving into a lot of that stuff. So we'll talk about a lot of what's going on inside of the NYPD on Friday. We're looking forward to that. All and obviously be back, have a nice round table tonight. What time's it, Eric?
Do you remember?
I have it written down. No, I'm just kidding.
The executive perspective, baby.
5:05 p.m. Executive perspective. Chief Rob Lukash, Inspector Ron Mason. They'll be back. They're talking about, and I did their thumbnail, so I should know what they're talking about. They'll be talking about, is the NYPD's preparedness for now that the nation's at war, terrorism. Why is Ron saying 1? So that.
No, he put 7. Oh, your rides are going, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The chat gets me, dude. After a while, it's like, but yeah. So that's tonight. That'll be a good show.
Oh no! Oh, you put all the numbers. 17:05. I'm like, why you put 7? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Ron's put 17:05. Yeah. Good morning, Ron. That's hilarious. But listen, all kidding aside, executive perspective, awesome show. Those guys do a hell of a job. Great show. 10-4 Tavern. If you didn't see yesterday's show, great guest. Be sure you take a look at that. Tom Joyce, thank you so much, brother. Doing a hell of a job. Pete Faselli. Those two are awesome. Ron and Rob make a hell of a team. So those two shows, don't miss it. 17:05. If please keep reminding John. He's forgetting. That's 5:05 p.m. You can just add 12 hours.
Yeah.
What about coffee and donuts? We got a couple here.
Well, I think we did one, and then Mike Marino threw us $20. So
thank you, brother. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you. And Mike says that we should bring Morgan on from last night, who was the guest on the 10-4 Tavern. Yeah, I mean, look, it was a good show, man. He covered a lot of stuff. So yeah, maybe down the road, a couple of months, we'll definitely seek to have him on. I thought it was a very informative show last night. For some reason, though, I always watch from X. I don't know why. I do. For some reason, X hasn't been letting me comment on any of these shows. I don't know why. I tried to comment on Ron. Actually, Ron made a special guest appearance last night, too. They were doing virtual coin exchanges, which was, I think that was the first I've ever seen.
That's hilarious.
And I'm pretty sure he had a Mets hat on, which was disappointing. But
not
everybody can pick good baseball teams. It is.
Listen. I love Citi Field, man. I think Citi Field's, and I've been to baseball.
Yeah.
I've been to stadiums all over the country. I've been to a lot of stadiums. I think it's one of the best. My favorite, believe it or not, is actually I think I mentioned before, Camden Yards in Baltimore. Awesome. So.
Yeah, I never been. I mean, I passed it a million times.
It's awesome.
I never been inside Camden.
Do you want to? And I actually, it was old school, but I liked it. The one in Cleveland was cool. They had awesome bratwurst. Like, it's always like a theme, what you like hot dogs, but then they had bratwurst. It was really good. At in Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Atlanta was cool too. That was nice.
I'm just, I'm still just a diehard Yankees fan. Like I love the Yankees. I was there last time they won it when they beat Philly. But I don't hate the Mets either.
Old stadium and new stadium. What would you like better?
I like the old stadium better, but the new stadium's nice. It was time. So, but I was there when they won in the new stadium, and let's see what Judge could do this year. Let's see. So, It's told to you so back when. Says bring school craft on to talk about fudging numbers since crime is so low. Look, he went out into like obscurity, dude. Like a lot of people have reached out to us, sent our information to him. Look, people are welcome to come on here. It's their choice. You know, there's a lot of people we'd like to have on. We can't force anybody on here. If he wants to come on, tell his story, give his perspective, obviously he's welcome. Same for Danny Pantaleo. You know what I mean? If you want to come on here, you want to tell your story. If you don't, we completely understand, right? You were in the media spotlight. A lot of people don't want to go back into that. You know, and especially those two, I think they had a really, really rough go of things. And I could understand them just wanting to be out of it and not be bothered anymore. You know, like it is.
I don't think anyone was dragged through the mud more than Daniel Pantaleo. I mean, just his life was turned upside down for close to a good decade that he had to be in hiding. Just and I'm sure that's always in the back of his head too, and on his mind. Just the fact that the total betrayal from the NYPD, thanks to the commissioner at the time, Jimmy O'Neill, that was literally on his knees. So just absolutely terrible. And Jimmy O'Neill has to live with that. So Daniel Pantaleo, if you listen to this, or if anyone gets the information to you, man, be proud of yourself. I mean, they might have won that battle, but at least you can look yourself in the mirror. You did your job to the best of your ability.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even Serpico, you know, Serpico, you see in the chat sometimes. He watches the show, you know, he's always welcome. And, you know, but like, again, he went through a lot on the job. And I think, you know, he doesn't, you know, sometimes I think he wants to step away, or he just wants to listen, or just be out in the background. And that's, you know, that's.
Well, I spoke to him on the phone. I spoke to him on the phone about coming on. He was interested in coming on. He's older now, and, you know, he's enjoying his life, but, he watches. He likes it. You know, he definitely watches the show. So we listen. We don't like to force anybody. If someone wants to come on, you know, we want them to come on their free will.
That's it. You know, it is what it is. So, what do you don't like? If you guys don't like me, Maul, and Eric, I mean, it is what it is. You know.
Well, at least there's three of us. Like I like two, and I don't like one. That's pick the one you don't like.
Yeah.
I think we handle it pretty well. I mean. Nit, I'm going to be crying later. All those nasty things you said to me. It's really going to get to me. Yeah, it's really bothering me. Nit's a very important person.
In his own mind. He's a legend in his own mind. So, but all right, people. So, so we'll be back at you Friday. Looking forward to it. Got a lot of things to talk about. And that's it. Anything before we wrap up out of here?
Yeah, here's a great question. Sergeant Renzulli, what's up, brother? So he says, John, Eric, how come you don't have active police officers in the NYPD on? Great question. So we've had numerous opportunities. We spoke to active cops that wanted to come on, but we don't allow them to come on because we don't want them. We don't want them to have any backlash or have any issues with the NYPD. Clearly, they would. I mean, we have issues with the NYPD, and we're retired. So what would they do to an active cop? So it's for their protection. So Sergeant Renzulli, thank you, brother. We appreciate it.
Yeah. No, look, if they represent an organization, a union, they're running for a union spot. We've had active cops on, but not to talk about the issues, and they can't come on. You know, there's a cop, actually a boss that wants to come on. Has been really hounding me, and I'm like, look, I just can't be a part of you getting jammed up. I just can't. Like, you're going to get fired, and it's going to be a result of the show, and I just don't want you to do it. I understand you have your issues with the NYPD. Work it out in court with them. If you want to have your lawyer, or you want to come on with your lawyer, that's a different story. You know, if you being a union representative, being a fraternal organization representative, totally different. Coming out here and airing your grievances out with the department while you're active is not a good thing.
Yeah, know? I mean, John, think about it. We had some pretty impressive stories where there were cops like, you know, you spoke to them too. I spoke to some cops like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Like they just hit a brick wall. They said they don't even care. I don't care what happens to me. I just want to tell my story. And we actually said, no, listen, we get it, we appreciate it, but we're not going to put you in that position. Not at all.
Yeah, no, and it's so true, dude. It's like, it's, you know, and I tell everybody that reaches out, I'm like, look, we'll get a lot of views. It'll get national attention, but you're gonna get fired. So I mean, like, I don't want to put my head on the pillow with that at night. So you know what I mean? I don't want to put you in that scenario. I think it's bad. It's a bad move. Told you back when says wasn't the chief aviation chief on while active. Again, he was on with his attorney, technically on the books, but not really active, already submitted for retirement. So he wasn't really active, and he was on with his attorney. It's a totally different situation. You know what I mean? It's not just you speaking out, I've seen he just posted something with Al Sharpton though, so
that's a great look.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Real public safety expert, law enforcement expert, Al Sharpton. Remember when he was given he was training the new recruits in the academy under de Blasio?
Oh my God.
And then we wonder why we have so many issues.
Yeah, that's why there was all those fake. Remember the meme going around? It was Al Sharpton's the PC. That was going everywhere. That was the time where you had to get breath mints. What a stupid training that was. I think they called it Y2K or something.
Yeah.
What a dumb training.
Yeah.
And then they were teaching some bullshit takedown. I was like, well, you got to take the person down this way, the proper way that they initially were going to go with. They didn't want to do it because the perpetrator would get injured. Well, how about the perpetrator doesn't fight with the cops? How about that one? Well, how about you just comply,
So what they did then was they just stopped doing takedowns and they just start all the training with the perpetrator on the floor. It's like, wait, you missed a couple of steps there. Like how they willingly get there with the hands.
That's why I agree with you. You always say that. It's true. Okay, great, but how do you get that person to the ground? We missed a really key point here.
Yeah, sick. So, all right, people. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's get out of here. All right, Finest Unfiltered. Let's do the executive perspective. 5:05 p.m. or 17:05 p.m. Thank you, Ron.
Yes, Ron made sure it's 17:05. Thank you, brother.
All right, later. Finest Unfiltered. We'll be back at you.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?